Hello, hello, back again, reporting on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. Actually, too beautiful to be inside. I'm going outside right after I do this video. Good to be back with you guys. Hope everyone's Friday night was nice. Mine was pretty nice, actually. Did some rock climbing, something I hadn't done in ages, so very, very fun. Before I get into the chess, I just want to talk a little bit about the two types of chess players, because I feel like they're two different distinct types of chess players, and I really want to talk about them and sort of where I stand on that. So basically, I would say there are sort of the mathematical and scientific gut players, and then you have the sort of philosophers, the chess philosophers. Now, the mathematical or scientific players, they basically feel like chess is primarily calculation driven, that the truth can be arrived at empirically. And that's basically the best way I can say it. You arrive at the truth empirically. And essentially what that means is that after rigorous sort of study and trial and error, you arrive at sort of what you feel is the most correct way to play. The chess philosopher, on the other hand, is more driven by ideology. So instead of necessarily looking at the evaluations of the positions in sort of numerical ways, or I mean, we all have to look at them in numerical ways, but in less of a sabermetric fashion, the chess philosopher has an idea about how the forces on the chessboard should be coordinated. And I sort of fall in that spectrum. I'm a war of attrition player. That's my philosophy. I believe that if you create a weakness in one place, and then you create a weakness in another place, eventually the edifice will collapse. And I've seen it over and over again work. And so I have a philosophy about the way I think the game should be played, and I implement strategies that are closely aligned with that way of playing. I'm going to try and do my best in this video to implement my war of attrition strategy. And in some of the other videos, I definitely play that way, but the openings were varied, and they're going to be varied this time, but I'm really going to try to show you what that means, and hopefully you learn something. So we're going to, I clicked 5 minutes, and we're already in the pool ready to go. So war of attrition basically means you develop your pieces like I'm about to do. You get them all out, and you sort of maximize the utility of the activity of the pieces. And you don't do anything really crazy. You don't get yourself into some really uber aggressive stuff. You essentially try to keep the position as tepid as possible, as sort of lukewarm. Some might say boring, but the real point of doing this is that at the end of the day, you eventually come to a situation where you can sort of wear down your opponent over time based on whatever small weaknesses they might have created. And right now, I'm essentially playing against an isolated pawn, which is the perfect war of attrition thing to do. This isolated pawn is really weak on its own, and so I'm going to blockade it. And in the efforts to blockade it, hopefully I get some sort of strategic and positional gains. So already you see me sort of blockading the d4 square, trying to grind it out. Nothing major. It's not a major advantage, but it's a small and nagging advantage that I'm essentially just going to try and keep up the whole game. And I've managed to successfully trade some of the minor pieces that may have been a nuisance for me. So I already really like my position. All right, let's see. So it's important that I don't blunder. The war of attrition player, like every chess player, really can't afford to make bad blunders. But I really like where I am thus far because I have a firm blockade over the d4 square, which is really important. f5. That's an aggressive move. I'm going to try and double my rooks. I'm really trying to play in this war of attrition fashion today. So I might miss things tactically, but the point is that I'm trying to basically get a slow grind, get all my pieces to good squares. I really like my knight on b6 because it controls the c8 square, not allowing a rook to contest the file. So I'm hoping I can double the rooks, get to the 7th rank, and then boom, do something devastating. So queen f6, basically trying to disrupt my activity disrupt my ideas, but I'm not really buying that idea though. I'm gonna go rook d1. Just blockade. Just keep everything as solid as I can. And the contours of the game have been established. That's really another important thing here, is that what black is suffering big time, and it's because the slow black basically, to sort of get anything going, has to push the kingside pawns. And the truth is, when black pushes those kingside pawns, black's king becomes weaker. So it's very, very double-edged play. Okay. Knight g5 is interesting, but I think it just blunders a pawn. So I'm going to take that pawn. It was important that I don't trade queens first, because black had knight takes f3 check. And now what? Yeah, now should I play knight takes or queen takes f6? Knight takes d5 looks stronger. And man, I already have really, really nagging pressure. I'm a pawn up. Oh, that was queen g6 threatens knight f3 check, but it actually allows knight d2 check. So up, and black resigned, or knight e7 check. Black resigned before I could even get the fork in. And yeah, it's amazing. That was only 23 moves. Normally the war of attrition strategy takes longer. Normally it's like slow, grinded out style of play. But you can basically see from the game is that you get a small advantage, and then you slowly improve, and you slowly improve, and you grind it out, and then eventually they break, because chess is a human game at the end of the day. We have these engines that dictate how we should play and where we should play, but they're humans playing this game. And as long as humans are playing this game, they make mistakes, they get tired, they have emotions. And I think that's sort of the reason that chess will always be a game that's played and entertained, because even as the engines come closer and closer to understanding the game in a better way, it's nowhere near solved. But even as they become more of that first type of chess player I was talking about, the chess mathematician, the chess scientist, the empirical data guy, will never be that. And the thing that I also like about the empirical data people are there's always revisions to that understanding. Not to say that the philosopher is always making revisions, but it always makes me laugh when people are so confident and bashful about their opinions, and then they have to revise them over and over and over again. So, anyways, but let's just see this game real quick. Again, slow development, not really trying to do anything ambitious, just getting the pieces out, just developing. Once c5 is played, making an isolated pawn, just castling, and just playing against that isolated pawn. And d4 couldn't be played in this position because I had knight a4. And so the bishop had to be protected or drop back with queen e7. Then I attacked it. Then I blockaded the square. And slowly, then the pieces were exchanged. And that blockading, that pawn that's been blockaded on d5 becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. And I took more space. And I got all my pieces to right squares. And I doubled. And then I won a pawn. And then it's amazing, amazing how if you just play slowly but surely and you sort of develop, good things happen. So, we're playing Providence. This guy I have played before, but it's been a long time. Alright, so I'm going to try and do the slow, methodical approach again, play the Caro-Kann. It's not opening that's particularly sharp usually, or my goal is not to get a sharp line, and just play, very, very, very slow, gradual play, and we'll see where it goes. This is the Caro-Kann Panoff line with g6, Fian showing the bishop. It's actually a pawn sacrifice because if c takes d5, knight takes d5 is sort of out of the question because of bishop c4. So I actually have to go bishop g7 here because if in that line before, if knight takes d5, bishop c4, and then knight takes d5, bishop c4, knight takes c3. White has this very good move, queen b3, I think, hitting f7 or something like that. Anyways, so this is a pawn sacrifice line, but it's double d pawn, so it's not like this worst pawn to be down in the world. And Black tries to use this lead in development. In fact, Gotakamsky has used this. If you guys know Gotakamsky, this is a several-time U.S. champion. At one point, top 10 player in the world. Still active. Very good chess player. So, yeah, he's going to try and defend this pawn. And, well, I'm going to try and get it back. But he's really trying to keep it. So, I don't know if I can get it back. Some might say, "Why are you trading queens? Aren't you a pawn down? Don't want to trade when you're down material?" To that I say, "Yeah, you're right. But I thought that the dynamic compensation connected with maybe my knight coming to b4 and just sort of the activity I have might be stifling. Well, I was hoping it was stifling. If it's not stifling, we might have a problem. And yeah, but I'm still down this pawn, and I don't know how to get it back. So." Stay tuned to see how I get it back. Now I still don't have the pawn back, but I'm hoping that my lead in development somehow will make up for this, or my activity will make up for this pawn deficit. But it's tough to say, very tough to say. Still down this double pawn, but again, I have some activity, so that's the hope. That is the hope. Problem is my knight is really not doing well. This looks like it's about to get trapped. Oh, I really don't want to go back to a6, but I'm going to do it. For the sake of the health of my position, I'm going to do it. It looked like on knight d3 that my knight was going to sort of be lonely, so definitely did not want to do that, though. Probably just a concession. This Providence guy is pretty good, this IM, In fairness, many of these games, I'd be even more competitive, or I'd win more of them if I wasn't talking, but those are excuses. Anyways, you can see that even though I'm not winning or not up a pawn, the war of attrition, grinded out type of style is in full effect because it's the queens are off the board. We've traded some pieces where it's getting to a more technical phase, and I like that. I like that a lot. d6 is a very strong move. It looks like weakening my pawn structure, but I feel like I gotta take it, even though it looks really ugly. Yeah. White is definitely getting the better of this position, no doubt about it. My pawn structure is ugly. I have these ugly pawn islands, limited prospects, not pretty. But now I'm going to try and get some activity. Oh, this guy's playing really well. Oh man, I have no places for my rooks to go. I'm gonna go knight b8, as ugly as that looks, just to get my knight to c6. Gotta try and get some activity somehow. Somehow, some way. The good news, if the knight leaves c3, I might be able to go to e2 with my rook, but it's not looking great right now. No doubt about it. Yeah, it looks like he's just clamping down on me right now. I never got full compensation for the pawn, it looks like. But knight b5, I'm sort of happy to see, or I think I am, because I want to get my rook to e2. Pretend that I have some activity here. Get some counterplay going, because these knights have just been dancing around my weak squares and doing some serious damage. b4, protecting that pawn, good move. d6, I really don't want to lose that pawn, so I think I'm going to protect it with d5, but I don't know. Looking fishy. I think it's amazing that I'm up on time. This never happens when we do these, so hopefully I can use this time for something. Try to keep my time advantage and make the most of that. Knight b6. This guy's just trying to take all my pawns. You know what? I'm going to keep going for activity. I'm going to go rook e8. The idea is to just get both rooks to the second rank and maybe get some lonesome attack. Now I think knight c3 or rook e1 needs to be played just to cover rook e2, because that's a real threat. I think he missed that. It's like sometimes it's the last-ditch attempt that works. Yeah, and so now I have to trade these rooks, but now I get this valuable d4 pawn that I think he missed this, because this is a very important pawn that I just won. And now I might be able to play for something more, because now my rook is so active, and yeah, everything looks pretty nice now. So I'm going to go knight c2. Just attacking that rook. Oh, I blundered this bishop. That wasn't smart. Oh, I was playing so adequately until I blundered that bishop. Alright, well, I'm going to take this rook and try to flag. Oh, I finally got some activity there at the end, but unfortunately blundered some of my counterplay away. Oh well. And wow, my rook is actually trapped. How funny is that? Well, not that funny, but... Wow, I went on time. Wow, 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 wow. There were a lot of blunders there at the end. Wow, wow, wow. I'll take it. Um, Again, the chess philosopher, in this case myself, uh, is really keen on getting the type. It's not so much concerned about strictly the evaluation of the position, although that matters. It's more concerned about whether it's in the style or the pace is to my liking. It's almost like in sports. Actually, sports is a perfect analogy. Anyone out there follow American football? The war of attrition, the NFL, the war of attrition player is sort of like the Seattle Seahawks. Sometimes their offense is ugly, but they don't turn the ball over. They force turnovers on defense, and they try to do the little things right over and over again. And so it's very important that I just sort of I developed my pieces, try to get some activity. Maybe trading queens wasn't so great, unclear, but I wasn't going to get checkmated. And I think that's very important to point out, is my style dictated that I want to get a position at my pace, at my speed, at a speed that I was comfortable with. And I was able to do that. And that sometimes matters more than the evaluation does. And that's why and that's why he took so much time, this Providence dude. And it's in so many sports it's the case. Another analogy, if anyone follows real football or soccer as we call it over here. Unfortunately, we do call it soccer over here. Basically, it's sort of like the way Spain played when they won the World Cup and then the European Championship back-to-back. It was like total football, where they possessed the ball 60% of the time. The scores were mostly like 1-0 or 2-0. There was never any really serious flash. It's just precision passing and just doing all the micro stuff right over and over again. And what I mean by micro is the little things. If you're able to do the little things over and over again, good things happen. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do the little things right over and over again in this game, but I did enough to win. So, I mean, I never really got full compensation for the pawn. I think that was the problem. I never even had any compensation for the pawn. I was trying to get it back. I thought, okay, I was here, but a3 is very strong because my knight has to go back, I thought. And did not love this, but lucked out in the end. So, I'm just getting 5-minute games right away today. So, Jorge, this guy always plays b3 every time. And I should just figure out what to do against this. Someone once told me d5 and bishop g4 is the most annoying. So I'm going to do that. And then they go e4 and it's this pawn gamut. And now they go queen e2. And in a previous video, I took the extra pawn, and then I lost a queen b5 check. So I'm going to look. I know queen b5 check should not be allowed here. So I'm not going to allow it this time. It's not going to happen. So the question is, what do I do instead of that? Do I go queen d7? Do I go a6? I'm going to go a6. I just don't want to lose to queen b5 check again. So, and then I'm just going to take this pawn because it's an extra pawn, and now get on to developing. So now I'm up a pawn. I think that's good. I'm going to give up the 2 bishops though because I wasn't keen on g4 hitting my position. But hopefully everything is okay. I'm just going to try and castle queenside and play very, very safe. Although white has very, very annoying pressure in this diagonal with the 2 bishops. So I may have already gotten into a little bit of trouble here. Yeah, saw that one coming. I probably should have played h6 not to allow the just g5 move. Because now my position is just really, really is really, really uncomfortably attacked. It's always annoying when this early in the game the question is not what the position is or what the evaluation is. It's can I survive? And that's the question right now. These two bishops are very menacing. Everything's bearing down. It's very uncomfortable. Not where you want to be. Yeah, f5. I want to relieve the pressure on the pawn, so that was the idea. And should I take the rook with check first, or yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Take here, and then give a check on. If queen takes f6, I think I'm gonna give a check on d6. Or maybe not. White has the two bishops. White is definitely better. The question is how to survive. And I think I have a better shot surviving with the queens on the board. Except I'm already lacking squares for some of my pieces. I'm going to go queen d6. And then go rook g8. Seems sensible enough. Point is, if queen f7 attacks my bishop and my rook, and I can go bishop h6 check, a very important intermediate move, and then move my rook away. So that's essentially what I'm angling for, but the two bishops really are bearing down on me in a very uncomfortable way. So, a bishop h3 attacking me. I have to go knight d8 here. That's like an admission that your position is awful. You got to go knight d8. But you do what you got to do when you're in trouble. I mean, the one thing that I can say is at least the material's equal. Now, we know bishops are better than knights in most positions, and especially in open positions. So, just because the material is equal does not mean the position is equal. If only it meant the position is equal. Then I'd be I feel not better about my chances here. Okay, so c4, I'm going to go bishop e7. I got to attack. I've got to disrupt the coordination of white's pieces here. And push them back. And queen f2 I'm happy to see because now I can go rook f8 and trade the rooks, which have been giving me some problems. So I'm happy with the passing moves that Jorge has made. They've allowed me to get rid of some of these pieces that are just killing me. Just to trade a little bit, take a little bit more of his firepower away, and yeah, that's a good sign. So I'm going to take this. And then I'm going to give a check on f4, and I'm actually going to win a pawn. And now I think I'm going to have a better position of a pawn, an amazing one. I'm going to take with the bishop because I'm hitting so that the queen has to stay defending the f1 bishop. And now, now what? That bishop had been giving me so much grief. I want to just get rid of it, this dark squared bishop. Because now if I get that dark squared bishop off the board, I put myself in a position where there's no way I can lose. I mean, I can lose on time, but positionally, there's no way I can lose. So. Okay. And now I'm just going to try and push this pawn as far as it can go. This h-pawn is a runner. Harry the h-pawn. I'm going to keep pushing it. Alongside, I don't see any threats to my king, so why not keep pushing? If I get the chance here, I'm going to go queen g3, because now all the queen trades are good for me, so I will definitely welcome that. My queen is really well placed on e5, like very centralized, so that's like one of the good things I have going for me. This pawn is just not being stopped, so I'm going to keep pushing it. I think it's important that even if he goes the queen behind the pawn, which is normally the right technique, the problem with my queen on the good thing about my queen being on e5 is that it protects h2, and it prevents the black queen of the white king from leaving the first rank. So I was actually threatening queen e1 check. Now I have to do something a little bit clever to I have to be a little bit clever here about how I convert, because the bishop is now in the way and it's controlling the square. So I need to make some progress. I need to create some sort of rub against the white king. I don't know how to do that yet. I really would like my knight to get in the game somehow, but I also don't want to get checkmated. This is not going to be easy to convert, because I need to get my knight in the game, but my king is not so safe. So I think king b8's a good idea. The idea is that to tuck my king away on a7 if I get checked. And now I can go knight c6. And I'm not worried about the double pawns because my king is actually quite safe behind them. So I'm not so worried. And now I think my knight can get in the game. Or at least that's what I want. Okay. And now my knight's coming in. I like my chances now. And now my idea is to play knight c3 check. Uh-oh, but I'm losing all this time. Well, again, sloppy conversion. I was a little bit down on time, but I had the right idea. If we go back just a little bit, I did very well to trade into this endgame where I relieved a lot of the pressure, and then I won the h-pawn. And right around here, I was repeating moves. I didn't know what to do. I need to improve. I need to get my knight in the game to deliver the final blow, because the bishop and queen are doing a good job of controlling the h2 pawn. And king b8 was the right move. I'm sure of it, because now I do get my knight in the game. And here, just a question of how to get this knight situated in a place where it's winning. I'm going to turn on the analysis just because I'm curious. It's at the bottom left of the screen right here. And okay, knight c3 check. I did that. King a3. It's saying mate n8. Mate n6. I went knight e2 up, so that's wrong. So knight d1 was the mating idea. Okay, and I see now knight d1 threatens queen b2 mate, queen a1 mate. So had the right idea. Poor execution under pressure. That's something we all need to get better with, and me especially, executing better under pressure. But you get the point. You trade pieces, you play methodically, you try to take your advantage to the end game. I had no advantage going to the end game, but I traded it more, and then he made some mistakes, and good things happen. Sometimes. Hopefully more. Hopefully all the time. Anyways, I'm going to turn this off, this analysis engine, and get another 5. And oh, another 5-minute game, super quick. Alright, so I'm going to play c4, the English this time. And again, I'm still trying to play in this methodical war of attrition way, where I just develop slowly. I'm fianchettoing my bishop here. The pawn on c4 isn't hanging really because I could go queen a4 check. I'm going to go d4 here. Okay, b6 is not so common. I'm going to go knight c3. And then, go knight e5. Now the bishops on this diagonal are opposing each other. It's a little bit annoying. And, I'm going to go queen a4. The idea here is actually I'm not only threatening knight takes d7, but I'm also threatening knight c6, which is a very annoying move, forking the queen and the bishop. And whenever you can get a bishop for a knight, think about doing it. Wow, this is weird. This is very weird. I'm going to take this and then go rook d1, and we're going to have each have double pawns on the file that are like really weirdly placed in between each other. Not a position you see every day. Queen e8. If I play queen c2, then queen c6 will be played. So I'm going to trade queens. I think that makes sense, doesn't it? Should I keep it on? I'm going to keep them on. I'm always trying to trade queens, even when it's not warranted. Maybe it's not warranted here. Because now the queen actually has to keep defending the queen has to keep defending e4, so maybe that means something. And now we're sort of just both staring each other down on the d file, playing this game of chicken, essentially, with one another. Just trying to close up everything. Although I might have been giving black some important squares for the bishop with b4. Yeah, maybe I'm not so sure that was the best choice, but it was the choice I wanted to make. Yeah, and it's tough to say what's going to go down here, because we both are sort of opposing each other and don't want to give any ground on the d file, that is. I'm going to play g4, try to take some more space. And g5. And the position is so closed that I'm trying to do weird things, like put my king on g3. If the queen ever moves from c6, I want to take that e4 pawn, so that's where my head is at. I'm going to allow these really weirdly ugly triple pawns, but but now I'm going to go king f4 and protect all of them with my king. That's basically the idea. Very unusual position, but I think I have an advantage because of this dark square control. So I'm very optimistic here, actually. As strange as this looks, my king is really safe because the e-file is 5 pawns on it. 5 double pawns, unbelievable. And I've really controlled the dark squares here, so it's one of these just weird positions. But I think I have to trade. Yeah, this is really weird. Because if I take the pawn, then he's just going to trade it. He's going to play c5. So I'm going to throw in c5. And I think he should have taken that. Because now now I'm gonna go bishop takes, and I'm thinking I might have a chance at a winning pawn endgame here, because if I trade all the queen and the bishops here, and then now I'm like an extra pawn. It's a dull pawn that doesn't mean anything. But I'm wondering if I have more space on the because I have more space for my king gets there quicker to the queen side, that I might be able to get my king to b5 or c6 and win the game. Very weird position though. And I see he's probably calculating the pawn ending. The good news is there's no risk for me. It's either winning or drawing. And so I essentially can just play this out. So yeah, so king f8 is going to happen, because if you play b takes c5, you temporarily win this pawn, but I'm going to get it back, and you're going to ruin your own pawn structure. So like a5 and the a5 pawn and the c7 pawn will just be shattered, and I'll just quickly go for a5 and have an outside passed a pawn, which would be too much. So the king f8 will be played, and then I'm going to have to think about whether I go king d4 or c6. I'm actually going to go king d4, because I can choose to go c6 when I feel like it, and I need to move my king further over anyway. So king d4 will almost definitely be my move, barring some blunder on Black's part. But you can see, but he's already thinking he might be or she, I don't know, RSQ64 is very concerned about this pawn ending, and I didn't know, to be honest. I still don't know whether I'm winning or losing or drawing. But the point is that I have the luxury of being in a win-win situation in terms of I can win or I can draw. I'm not going to lose. And here I think I want to keep the tension and get my king to b5. I think that's the winning plan, actually, because if I go king c4, he still can't take it. And if he goes king d7, I go king b5 and attack the b6 pawn, then he has to trade. So I think that's the winning maneuver, king c4 here. And yeah, now I get my king to b5, and I'm attacking b6, so he has to take, and then that's it. Then it's game over. So I think he's going to resign now, actually, because my king got to the queenside pawns first, and I have more space on the queen side. That's the thing too. Because I had more space, my pawns were further advanced. My king was, I was sort of encroaching on his side of the board, or RSQ64 side of the board. And so space is an asset even in the endgame, because essentially right now, my king's on the 5th rank, and Black has been operating on the last 3 ranks, the 8th, 7th, and the 6th. And so White has an inherent space advantage here that is tough to overcome. And you can see RSQ, I mean, this is incredible because, first of all, it's just an interesting pawn endgame, but it's also interesting because I've just been down so many, I've been down on time so many times, and I've been up on time in the games this one. Now, king takes a5 might win, but it'd be a little bit tricky because of king c6, then my king would be boxed in. So I'm going to go king takes c5 first. And the reason for this, I'm going to come back to b5 afterward. And if c6, I have king b6. And then the king has to be pushed back and actually take on c6 before taking on a5. So, trouble. Trouble in paradise. So, king c6 was played. King c8. I go king b5, just take it. King takes a5. And that's pretty much it. Now king b4, and I'm just going to run my a pawn. Yeah, and that's resignation. Very, very interesting pawn endgame. Again, if we just go back, just developing my pieces. Just developing. This is the Catalan opening. Essentially, Black can take this pawn c4, but then White can respond in several ways to get it back by playing like queen c2, or really popular right now is knight e5. And the thing is if you play d takes c4, the bishop on g2, the diagonal's opened all the way through to a8. So just things you have to be looking out for. And so typically, well, they do take a decent amount, but sometimes they don't. b6 I don't think is the best move, because I mean, you're not taking the pawn, but you're opening up this diagonal sort of in an unreasonable way. c6 is a little bit more solid, because now this bishop on g2 is having pipe dreams of hitting that rook on a8. Then knight c3, just developing, knight e5, just trying to keep that diagonal pressure, so that the pawn, black can't take on c4 because of, I take the bishop on b7. And then queen a4 I thought was really clever, because essentially I'm threatening to take on d7. I'm actually threatening knight takes d7, and then if queen takes d7, I trade queens, and then I win the pawn on d5, because the knight on f6 has to go back and recapture the queen. So I'm actually threatening to win a pawn here. And I'm also threatening knight c6. And because of those dual threats, black decided to take this knight, which got to a very, very weird position where there are 4 pawns against each other, but I think I have more space. And again, the diagonal pressure favors me here, because black's bishop on b7 is a little bit, is sort of pinned by its own e pawn, and so my bishop on g2 is sort of winning this diagonal by having this pawn tension there, and the bishop has to defend the e4 pawn or lose it. So I think I have the better of this position, and so I kept the queens on. I don't know how great of a decision that was, and then I tried to close it up and build on this static advantage. I definitely went too far with this h4, g4, g5 stuff, but it's Blitz. So. And then, yeah. And then here, I knew there's no way I can lose, because my king comes to f4, the king side's closed up, so my king's quite safe. And I think c5, I think he should have captured this pawn, but he didn't. And then I was able to get to this winning king pawn ending. Because if I wasn't able to get, if c5 was, think about it, if c5 was not able to be played there, then black could go pawn c5 and it'd be totally closed. But because I took a little bit more space with the help of this pawn sacrifice, that's not really a sacrifice, my king was able to waltz right in and got this highway through c4 to b5, and then that was it. So, anyways, very instructive endgame, and again, very consistent with the war of attrition approach. Let's give one more. Give one more game. 5 minutes. Yeah, and I anticipate, in case you guys are curious, Magnus Carlsen in his World Championship match coming up in a few weeks. Actually, looking forward to it. It's going to be in New York City for the first time since I think the 90s, when Kaspar Fernand played. 2 former world champions and greats. But yeah, Carlsen will play this War of Attrition game with Karyakin, and Karyakin's a great stubborn defender, but I'm really curious. I'm really curious to see how that'll develop over the course of the match. Bishop g5. It's like a Trompowsky type setup. Very interesting. I would love to push my e-pawn, but then I lose my queen, so not great. And, you know, these GMs, they tend to know what they're doing, believe it or not. So I'm going to try to show that I know what I'm doing as well. Very clever maneuver going for the 2 bishops. Typically, this is a GM type stuff. The one thing, though, is that normally the bishop is on c1 instead of g5 when you go for the 2 bishops here. So I don't know. I'm not so impressed. a4 was trying to claim some space on the queen side, and so I can't allow that, so I played a5. And queen b3, I just go queen b6. We trade queens. I'm perfectly happy trading queens. You guys all know this by now. And black has white has the 2 bishops, no doubt. So white definitely has some advantage, but I'm hoping to keep it to a minimum. I'm going to go knight h7 here. The idea is actually to just get the bishop, get this bishop on g5 back. Yeah, just to trade this one. And, I don't know if I want to trade it like that, though. I'm going to try and get rid of this doubled pawn here. It's a bit of a nuisance. And yeah, I have a healthy pawn structure, but I am down the two bishops, one can say, so very curious to see how this turns out. And rook h4, I think, is an interesting move. The idea was not to allow... the idea was basically not to allow g3. Wow, if I take on g3 now, my knight's actually trapped, so I can't do it. Oh well. I'm getting squeezed here. It's funny because I was talking last game about how you don't want to be in a situation where white is just like pushing you on both sides of the board, and that's what's happening to me now. So you're sort of getting a good example of what not to allow. Unfortunately, it's at my expense, but I got to try and open up something. So I'm going to try and focus on this D file right now. But it's frustrating when this happens to you. It really is. Because no one wants to be squeezed. Now I'm going to have to defend on the last few ranks, and it's very passive, and you have to be a little bit patient, and these are things that are not, well, I don't mind being patient, but it's just not always pleasant, so. And I'm going to go b6 just to get active. I do not want to be passive, so trying to get active. Wow, b4 is so strong. I missed this one. The point is, if I take, then a5 comes. So, wow, that's a super strong move there. Wow, that's a strong move. Impressive. GM stuff. GM level stuff for sure. Yeah, now I'm losing. b4 was a super, super strong move. Because if I take that, then a5 was coming, and just impressive stuff. And then he would have had two connected passed pawns. So, wow. And now this h-pawn is going to be running as well. Wow, very good technique by this guy. Very, very impressive. I'm going to do my best to try to hold up the fort, but it does not look good right now. I need to get this h-pawn off the board, but how do I do it? I think I'm going to try and go knight e4 if I get the chance. Yep. And then check on f5. And then rook a7 is my idea. I'm a little bit low on time here, so I'm not going to talk so much the rest of the game. But you get the gist. I'm under pressure, big time pressure. Just trying to draw this one. Ah, that was a blunder because now the rook can go behind the pawn. No good. Rook h6 wins the game. Very impressive game from Vissam. I thought I had sort of had my chances after I traded the bishops. After I got one of the bishops off, because I'm down the 2 bishops here. White's better for sure. I thought knight h7 was a decent move, trying to just get rid of one of the bishops, because if he goes bishop h4, I have g5. But I think white still has an edge here, because the light squared bishop is still better than one of my knights. And g3 I missed as well, so I just had to be forced back. And then you don't want to get into this habit of getting forced back, because you can see over the course of all these moves, getting pushed slower and slower and slower and further back. Now, this is really what happens when the war of attrition sort of plan goes wrong, because you might be ground down, so you have to have good defensive skills as well. And I think I showed some, but not enough in the time allotted. And this is a really, really brilliant move right here. I was counting on recovering this b pawn and then having a backward b3 pawn to work against as a target. And after b4, I can't count on that anymore. And the reason it's so strong is because if I play rook takes b6 here, which I intended, b takes a5 comes, and then pawn a6 comes, and this bishop on d3 is protecting this pawn on a6. And this h-pawn is also, after h5, will be a passer, and this bishop can protect a pawn on a6 and on h7. Those are remarkably long pants legs. So really, really, really I missed that detail. And then so I couldn't allow that, so I couldn't take. So I played rook a8, and then he takes anyway. And now I have 2 pawns here to contend with, and then h5 is coming as well. And well, when it rains, it pours. I'm curious to see what the analysis was around here. Yeah, I'm actually not lost yet. It says +1's not quite losing, and I think I did fight all right. But yeah, knight e4 was a decisive mistake. I need to sort of keep my knight on and sort of sit on the position. That's the other thing about the war of attrition plays. If you sit on a position, or sitting on a position is way harder said than done. Way easier said than done. So I need to go king e7, knight d7, and just sit on a position. But it's hard when you're getting squeezed like this. You want to be active. As humans, it's our instinct and our need to be active, vibrant people, right? And it's no different on the chessboard. So, yep. Then I got ground down, and then yeah, the rest was clockwork. And wow, the computer's saying there was a draw here. I could have gone rook behind the pawn. I broke my own rook endgame rules. Rook behind the pawn. If I go rook h1, I can start getting some checks from behind. But I still thought it wouldn't be enough, because I thought the rook would be behind the pawn. He could just push it. But anyways, I went passive. White was active. Rook behind the pawn. And that's it. So, anyways, thanks for watching the video. I'm going to try and bring some more to you guys soon. And take care.